Hey y'all, it's your pal Madge. Welcome back to my garden. Today, if you can believe it, it is time to start the seeds for next spring's flower garden. Does it seem a little early? Does it even seem a little daft? Possibly. But I'm going to talk you through my thinking on this timing, and we're going to get these seeds started. We are also working on the soil in the side yard raised beds because, as you know, if you've been here before, that soil mix has not been performing well this year. So I got to try to amend it and see if I can get it healthy and productive. The reason being is that I want to put all of these plants, once they come up, in those beds. So, yeah, we got to get that soil up and running and ready to go. So I am going to work on some labels for all of these seedlings that I'm about to start. And I'm going to send you back in time to the last few days when I was working on amending those beds. So I'll see you back here in a minute. Let's talk about soil. I did not know much about soil, and I still don't, if I'm honest. I'm just learning. But in all the years I've grown until now, I either was growing in containers, just using potting soil, or I grew in a community garden bed where someone else had made really nice soil for me before I got there. So this is the first year that I've made my own soil mix, and it's not going great. The stuff that I planted in these yellow beds is not thriving, and I've been trying to figure out why. When I put these beds together, I put a layer of logs on the bottom and a layer of straw on top of that. And then the top layer, I did a 1-to-1 mix of a soil builder product from Bumper Crop. It's like a very fine textured, composty, very nutritious type of product. And I mixed that 1-to-1 with something that came in a bag that said Topsoil, very large on the bag, but it actually wasn't topsoil. It was a mixture of peat and sand. So that also had a really fine texture. Now, I thought that since the products I used had so much peat in them, that maybe there was a pH problem with the soil because peat can be kind of acidic, and not all plants like to grow in acidic soil. But I tested it, and the pH is just fine. So that was not the problem. So I was kind of at a loss. And today I went to a local garden center to talk to someone more knowledgeable than me and see if they had any ideas. And the woman I spoke with said that the soil mix that I created would probably have worked really well in a normal season in Pittsburgh. But we have gotten close to twice as much rain as we normally get between May and now. So, what she thinks is happening is since the texture of that top layer is so fine, the nutrition is just washing away in the rain before the roots can get to it. So, what she suggested is that I give the plants some food and that I put down a little layer of actual topsoil that has some chunkiness to it to hold on to some nutrition, and then add some more compost because that will break down and add more nutrients over time as well. So that's what we're going to do today, my friends, and fingers crossed it works. I'm starting here with a powdered slow release food called Flower Tone. This brand, Espoma, has a bunch of different types of plant food. This one is optimized to help plants bloom. There's some other ones that are optimized to help them put on vegetative growth. But I want flowers, so we're using the Flower Tone. And I am sprinkling this over the entire bed. And then I am putting a very small layer of topsoil over the entire bed. I'm just putting the topsoil in this little pot to make it easier for me to be a little bit more precise with it. I can't really just dump the whole bag on the bed because there are plants growing here. And some of those plants I want to keep growing through the next year. For instance, those bigger plants in the back are called hollyhocks, and they will likely survive the winter and become like 6 foot tall flowers next year. So I don't want to smother them by just dumping topsoil on top of them. If I didn't have any plants in this bed, this job would be a lot easier, but I do.
And I want to keep even the little zinnias in the middle that seem to be struggling because they're kind of going to be my bellwether on whether or not the amendments that I'm making to this soil are actually helping. If they do better, I'll know that it's working. If they don't do better, it's back to the drawing board.
Morning, y'all. It's the next day, and I got these beds partially amended yesterday. And maybe I'm tripping, but I feel like it looks a little bit better already. Today, I think I'm going to put some liquid feed on them because we have a rare non rainy day and the beds are nice and wet because of all the rain. So, yeah, I'm going to put some bloom feed on these to try to see if that will help them recover.
So I'm using this food that is particularly for flowering plants again, and I'm just giving it a good dose. Plant foods have a ratio on them, NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And depending on the ratio of those, they do different things to your plants. This one has a higher ratio of phosphorus, which means that it is encouraging the plants to bloom. And I did put the slow release plant food in this bed, but that, of course, is right in the name. It takes a little bit of time, and this is kind of an instant dose of nutrients, so the plants can just take it up in the roots immediately. When I've used this kind of food in the past on my roses, the next day, even, they have a bunch more blooms. So I put about 2 buckets on each bed. And while I was at it, I did all my containers too. I also spent a little time in the front of the house on the Rainbow Ombre Animal Crossing bed. And I fed all of the plants in that bed with that same liquid fertilizer. And now I'm just taking some time to get rid of some weeds. There's a lot of weed pressure in this bed. So I try to get out here every couple of weeks at least to get as many weeds away from my little planties as I can. And in the course of doing that, I ended up thinning out some of the cosmos and a couple of the smaller zinnias as well because stuff was just a little bit too crowded in there. Then I went in with some more of that slow release flower food and I sprinkled it around all of the dahlias and a lot of the cosmos and the zinnias. So hopefully over the coming weeks that will help encourage everything to grow. And I'm also going to amend this bed with some mushroom compost once it dries out. I did amend the one bed fully with it. It was kind of a mess though. It was very clumpy and muddy and it was not an easy job. So I'm hoping I can let the mushroom compost dry out a little bit and I'll be able to spread it a little more easily rather than basically having to throw mud around all my plants. And at this point in the day, it was hot, I was sweaty, and I decided that I was done gardening for the moment. And I went over to my friend's house to play in the pool, which was the best decision. Now I'm back from the pool. Like Moana, I'm putting my hair back because I mean business. And I am mixing up this mix for my seeds to grow in. It is a mixture of a couple of bricks of coco coir, which I reconstituted earlier today, and a bit of that bumper crop potting soil. It's about a 1-to-1 mix. And I want it to be a little bit moist, but not sopping wet. And as you can see, I'm breaking up any clumps of coco coir that I find as I'm working in this. Now I am going to fill up all of my little 6 cell seed starting trays with this moistened mix that I just made. I'm trying to get the mix all the way to the bottom of each cell without compacting it, but I guess time will tell how good of a job I do on that. So I am going to end up filling 24 of these little 6 cell trays, which comes up to 144 plants that I'm starting here. And a lot of them are going to be Snapdragons, but a lot of them are going to be other varieties as well. And I'll show you the varieties in a little bit. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about the timing of this. We have talked about cool flowers before. We're going to get into a little bit more detail today, but if you want to grow these guys, I highly recommend getting your hands on this book by Lisa Mason Ziegler or following her YouTube channel, which I will link in the description. The basic idea is that there is a whole group of flowers that grow better in cold weather, and you can start them in late winter or early spring. That's what I did this year. But depending on where you live and what zone you're in, there's some varieties that you can start even the fall before, let them get a little bit established, and then they'll live over the winter and you will get blooms even sooner in the springtime. So, to determine the timing of when I wanted to get this whole show on the road, I got out the calendar and I marked when we normally get our first freezing weather in Pittsburgh. It's usually the second half of October. So I marked that in yellow on the calendar that you see here. If I count back 6 weeks from then, that is when I need to have these seedlings that I'm planting today planted outside. And that's what I marked in green. But these seedlings need 6 weeks inside under grow lights to even sprout and get established enough for me to put them outside. So, counting back 6 weeks from the beginning of September, I end up in mid July, which is right now, which is why I'm planting next spring's seeds in the middle of the summer. One more thing to mention, some cool flowers are happy enough to just be direct sowed 6 weeks before frost. So I'm going to do that as well at the beginning of September. There's some stuff like Bells of Ireland and Buplorum that I'll just put in the soil as seeds, and that will give them plenty of time to get established before the winter comes as well. It took me a minute to get my mind around this as a concept, but the Cool Flowers book and the author's YouTube channel are super helpful in that respect. Okay, so we talked about the timing. Now let's talk about the varieties that I'm growing because they're very pretty and I want to show you. First up, we have many, many different kinds of Snapdragons. I'm growing a bunch of Snapdragon mixes just because it's fun to get a lot of different colors in one go. And also, I'm growing some more of these Chantilly varieties that you see on screen here. I just got a couple of stems of those this year, and they're producing well, but I want more. And these are a frilly Madame Butterfly, a bunch of different colors of pink, and of course the classic Madame Butterfly mix with all of the colors. Then I'm growing some pansies. Aren't those beautiful? And they love the cold weather. Also some delphinium. I'm going to try these even though I think they're a little bit tricky. These are Sweet William, which are meant to smell amazing. Never grown them before, but I'm excited about it. And this is Rudbeckia Sahara and Rudbeckia Goldilocks. And I love the Rudbeckia that I grow already, so I'm excited to add more to the fam. These are called Canterbury Bells, poisonous but so beautiful. And finally, this is a filler called Orlaya that's very lovely and delicate. If even half of these flowers grow for me, it will be a very happy spring indeed. All right, so I have just about got all of these trays filled with my moistened potting mix. And I had thought that I was capturing some really nice footage for you of me sprinkling seeds in all of these trays, but sadly, something went wrong there. So I will just show you what it looks like now that they're all planted, labeled, and ready to go in the grow tent. Here they are, all lined up and cute. I'm trying to get better about labeling things because I had a lot of surprises in the garden this year. So I'm labeling every single tray here. And next step is to put their humidity domes on and stick them in the grow tent under the lights. Here are a few arrangements I made this week. This one has lime basil and some actual weeds from my garden. I love her so much. And this, look at that honey Dijon rose up against all of the pinks and purples and blues. Ah, stunning. And these are the tiniest Lysianthus and the sweetest baby zinnia. Oh, and you will also be glad to know that we did end up getting one strawberry from all those many dozens of strawberry plants that we put in together. It has been a very good week.
Well, your girl is hot and sweaty, and my hands turned hot pink from my pretty new gardening clothes. But the rewards are great. We're going to have so many flowers next spring, and we already have a bunch. So, got to catch them all. See you next week.